needed to sync the audio, okay? God. How else do you expect the audio to be synced? So, I was thinking about this the other day, how much I have really been, affected by being disabled. Because in case you didn't know, I'm disabled. I have cerebral palsy. And, yeah. So, a lot of times, disability representation and life and the media and stuff is all very extreme, I guess. You don't really see a full spectrum of levels of disability. You see most often people in wheelchairs or bedridden or just general severely disabled types. And that's wonderful, that's great. It's well-deserved representation, but it's also often the first thought of a disabled person, right? I am not in a wheelchair. I don't really need a wheelchair. The only times I would ever benefit from having one is a day where I would have to walk for a really long time. But for the most part, I'm able-bodied, but just things are a lot more difficult than they would be for other people. And I stand really weird because my gait is fucked up. But I spent a lot of my life and my childhood not really thinking about my disability or thinking about how it affects me or whatever. I just kind of trudged on through life. And now that I'm 20, I'm really thinking about this. I think about the different things that I can't do or do as well as able-bodied people because I'm disabled. I have done ballet for 5 or 6 years off and on, and it's a lot to kind of think about that I'll never really get to the skill that I want to get at because just my muscles are too tight and my gait is just how it is. I mean, I'm sure I could get kind of close to that if I were to really work at it, but I'd have to work so much harder than your average dancer just because it's so much of my body that it just naturally does that, and I can't do anything about it, and I have to really work and focus to make it look like everybody else's, basically. And it's just interesting because I've never been presented with from the start of my life a stark realization of the thing in the ways that I was different from other people or not able to do things to the same degree or in the same manner as other people. When I was a kid, I had foot braces that made me low-key invincible. I could trudge through anything in those. And I went to physical therapy, but I was also really little when I did those things. I stopped going to physical therapy and stopped having to wear my braces when I was 7 or 8 maybe. So a lot of those memories I've forgotten, and a lot of the treatment I received from other people I've forgotten, and I'm sure it would be vastly different if that was something that I had to do through my teenage years or even still now. The landscape, the social landscape of that would be completely different. Oh my god, I need to blow my nose. It's also really interesting to think about how feel very weird about, like, claiming disability resources. Like, at my school, you can get a line pass if you're registered with the Office of Disabilities. You can get a pass that lets you, like, skip the line. And I have one of those. I've never used it, but I have one of those. And it would feel, I don't know, just because there's all of that judgment from, like, able-bodied people who are like, you don't look disabled, or you don't look disabled enough, or whatever. You know, there's a big kind of, like, oh, I don't know, I can manage fine without these things, so I won't claim them because maybe somebody else needs them more, sort of thing, which is kind of ridiculous because, you know, even if I'm not as heavily disabled as other people, I'm still, like, disabled. Like, homie, my brain just straight up just isn't fully developed. And I don't know why I feel so weird about it. Because it's not even, like, really that serious of a thing. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to share these thoughts. If you are disabled, what's your take on all of this? I'd like to know. Because this is an interesting topic to me, especially just, like, really having to come to the realization of, like, oh wait, actually I'm disabled. Like, that's a whole process of trying to be like, oh, actually, if I think about my life, I've been affected in, like, all of these different ways, and I just kind of have put up with it for a long time, you know? I don't know. I just wanted to share my thoughts, I guess. So, share your thoughts if you have them. If you don't, that's cool too, I guess. Thanks for tuning in. Bye. Snot City, bitch. Snot City, bitch. 10, 10, 20, 50. Snot City, bitch.